lot of time people look at situations of the media and don't understand the dynamics or the root cause of what's happening. When I decided to start my paper, I started as an online newspaper, then I went to print. My vision was to start this global newspaper in Liberia for West Africa with a zero tolerance on what they call kato. I know how to call it in Ghana, it's the hand in some countries, where you go to press conference, they give you envelopes or whatever. But it's difficult to implement because reporters go on assignments, they do what they want to do, they take what they want to take, and you can't really control everybody. That being said, it's difficult for an owner to really manage, everything 100%, have control of whatever he prints. I know some media in my country are owned by politicians. So it becomes difficult for those media to really report on certain things. But I think the fact of the matter is that I try to have control over what my paper does, because if you don't have control, it's very easy to be manipulated. Okay.
My view is that I think we make a little too much of the centrality of advertising as a funding model for journalism. It's important, but it had not always been the basis of media sustainability. And I think it amounts to some, we'll be guilty of mental closure if we also can project into the future to think of new models for funding journalism. So I think that's where the fundamental crisis is today. Too much premium on the view that advertising is what will help the media to survive. Now, so if you look at patterns of ownership, therefore, in Africa today, between big business, and big business is an exaggeration, truly in many of our communities as owning newspapers, with the possible exception of South Africa. But I will say anyway, that if we want to think of the two major problems of ethical crisis that is affecting journalism in Africa today, which is number one. Second being a revenue crisis, which the bottom line is sustainability. We now have to think beyond advertising because there are multiple funding models. And advertising itself, if you look at all the data available today, it's moved almost dramatically away from journalism as we understand it, as that practice that holds democracy accountable. What we have seen also is that with the advent of digital, advertising has dramatically moved to what you then call, digital content. It's no longer in newspapers, and it's not probably going to grow. Of course, philanthropy has come to play a big role in funding good journalism, which may call grants in a sense. And some of the most consequential journalism in the world today is coming in this regard. So that's one. Then, I think that the central thesis in financing journalism is we have to ask ourselves the question, how can journalistic content, fund journalism practice? If we pose it in this very difficult way, then we'll have to think out of the box.
If we're thinking about sustainable media landscape, we're thinking about also doing media business management smartly. Look at us, do an audit of our staff that we have. Do they have the skill sets to take us to the next level? Do we have enough to spread out? Does it make business sense to spread out? Can we consider partnerships? Are we making the best out of the staff that we have? And I think that many of our media organizations are not looking at so I would say being innovative about how they run their businesses. Many are reeling under huge overhead costs that do not make sense.
The influence of people on what you do is very, very difficult. And you talk about sustainability is like, for example, people like look at you like, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Right now I'm talking with Media Foundation about how we can make money out of our news. I mean, like, because to sustain ourselves. And I've been told over and over, you have a lot of following on Facebook and social media and your website is very popular. Why not charge people for news? That's the debate we've been having for a long time. And I'm like, I don't want to charge people for news because news is free. It should be free. And the thing about charging for news, there've been a lot of variations. Some people say, well, have a monthly fee or, you know, do something. But I'm like, a lot of people read your work. And if you start charging them to read, and one day one of their relatives will be involved in something and you write about it, they will say, I put my money in that paper, I demand it. So I'm afraid of that. So that's why I don't want to charge anybody money for anything for news.
In the Gambia, this debate has been going on, and what it propelled is the question of whether the government should not subvent the media houses. And that's got its own problem. I remember when we raised this issue, just to put it out there on the table for people to debate on the issue, because it's happening in Senegal, you know, and it does not fundamentally affect the coverage by Senegalese media, the fact that the government is giving subvention and stuff. But in the Gambia, the question it sparked was, can we take anything from the government and remain independent and maintain our professional and ethical standards? And I remember the room was so divided. A lot of people, no, we cannot. Some media houses say, even if this is going to happen, I am not part of it, not in my name. But we just, even though we just put this on the table. When a businessman invests his money into a media company and tell you, because I want journalism excellence in the country, you question. There's always why from day one. Why this, why that, why me? What is there for you? You always have your doubts. But then it's even worse when the businessman has presidential ambition.
I have heard two of the issues being discussed in detail: ownership and sustainability. Very little has been said about professionalism. At best, what I've heard you talk about is ethics. So I ask the question, is journalism a profession?
We are here talking about the fact that an issue like Soli, the honorarium or the TNT that are given to journalists is a bad idea because people get to influence the story. How do you make sure that when they go out there, because some media houses don't even give transportation, they don't carry the journalists to the event so that you can say that at least your TNT is taken care of. They don't give them TNT too, but you're advising them to do away with it only because of influence. What if the journalist says that, oh, I have integrity and so no organization or government can influence my story? Like, how does it play? How do we take it out? How do we merge it? How do we make sure that journalists, you know, abide by the ethic that don't take the money?
Look, it's important to get trained. It's important either to do mentorship. At the end of the day, the central issue, the ultimate sufficiency issue in the definition of a professional is ethics. It is so in the military, it's so in police, it is so in medical. That's the point. Everywhere that, you know, we are talking of the professional. The professional is really ultimately defined by his ethics. So professionalism really, in our context, the crisis of the profession is really an ethical crisis to that extent. But I see it, you know, and there's nothing original about it. That's what everybody here is saying. So that we really have these two storming crises, which in the one hand is ethical, the other hand is, you know, a question of the revenue. How do you finance journalism? That's the point we're saying.
There are things that attract people, and we did that method in the Gambia before I quit the job, and it worked. We decided, and it was deliberate, that because everybody was going on about the breaking news, everybody was going on about the court, exhibit A, B, C, everybody was going on about the press conference, he said that, he added that, he stressed that. We didn't go there. We decided we would go after human interest stories. So if you are publishing, even online, you can, when stories happen, things happen. For example, Gambia, the biggest event at the moment is the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, where people come forward and confess to killings. I kill your uncle, I kill this, I ask for forgiveness. You can, because it's digital, it can take you, I am inside the TRRC hall when testimonies are being delivered. It can take me just 10 minutes to put that out. But how do I tell a story of an event that is live streamed for the whole country to see, morning to night? They don't wait to be, for it to be rebroadcast. They watch it live. How do I tell that story to people who already watch it live? There has to be innovative way of doing it. We shouldn't be complacent. People are not going to come and read newspapers because it's newspaper. You have to lure them into doing it. And we decided we are not going to rush. We are not going to be the one to break the news, but we're going to go after every single story, every breaking news, every he said, he added that story. We will put a human face to it, and we will go as far as the last village in the country to bring that story out. So 80% of our stories were from those remote areas where Gambians never even heard of. When we put it out, people say it's magic, but it's not magic. It's just a little bit of effort. And of course, in as much as we didn't even need the advert revenue because there was so much money there, and that's deliberate from the owner. But then people were coming to us. We didn't go to anybody for advertisement. They were coming because everywhere they went, people are talking about how these people do these kind of stories, and it's different, it's fresh air in the there will have to be innovation. Innovation is linked to sustainability. Innovation, you cannot do business as usual anymore, because even look at it, when something happens, everybody is aware of it. What people are not aware of, and what is exclusively yours, is you get out of the comfort zone and put human face to these stories in a very compelling storyteller. I see myself today not as a journalist, I'm a storyteller. This is what I am. When I look for stories, I look for stories in a way that is not news, that is not traditional. So I think this is a way forward. People will have to be innovative. People will have to assess that everybody is doing the same thing. The crowd, get out of the crowd and stand on your own and see what you can do, and that will be just peculiar to you, and that will become your brand. The issue of TNT, from the lady, the whole time you were mentioning TNT, I thought it was a brand name of a telecoms company until you said it's the money that they give. So in Senegal, if Media Foundation is organizing a press conference or even this, and you invite journalists, you better make sure you put it in your budget to give TNT. Is it TNT or TNT? TNT. You give TNT, it is compulsory, because if you don't do, nobody will talk about your story. In the Gambia, we call it workshop. People, you watch any Gambian television.
In Mali, they call it the final communique.
Final communique? But then honestly, in all seriousness, I think it is a decision that we will have to take. I will not accept my journalists to go and collect money from people in the name of I'm not paying them. So at the Chronicle in the Gambia, we paid much more than everybody else. But then when you sign, you know that you're not going to collect this TNT, because if you collect this, I have a reason to sack you and stuff. And that explains you don't have to do the dirty work for them. But once you collect this money, you are human. Of course, you're going to go and write